Okay, so get this. You sent in a ton of material about job searching.
Yeah.
And the crown jewel is definitely excerpts from the Harvard Business Review Guide to Your Job Search 2024.
Hmm.
We're talking resumes,
Mm-hmm.
interviews, salary negotiation,
Right.
even those first few weeks in a new role.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate cheat sheet.
It's interesting, because the job market can feel like this crazy, chaotic jungle sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
But this guide actually provides these clear frameworks you can use
Okay.
to break down the process.
I like that.
Yeah, almost like a map and compass to find your ideal job.
I love that, and it's so practical.
Hmm.
Instead of just vague advice, there are real-world examples.
Right.
Like that job seeker who decided to skip the typical cover letter and made a whole video about her activism.
Wow.
I was blown away.
It really makes you wonder, what's the secret sauce to stand out from everyone else in that sea of applicants?
Totally.
I want to dive into how this guide tackles that.
Well, it all starts with how you structure your search.
Okay.
The book argues that your network is even more valuable than just endlessly scrolling through job boards
Ah.
because it gives you access to that hidden job market.
Oh, the unadvertised opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those things that you don't even know are out there.
It's not even just about who you know, right? It's
Okay.
about how you approach your networking conversations.
Okay.
Every conversation is a chance to learn something new
Mm.
about different roles, different industries.
Industries that you might not even know exist.
Exactly.
I like it. So you're using those conversations to gather intel.
Exactly.
The guide even shares a story about this woman named Isabel, who's a consultant,
Okay.
and she actually used a spreadsheet
Wow.
to keep track of her networking.
Oh, wow.
Talk about commitment, right?
That's organization.
And she landed 2 amazing opportunities in just 3 months. So do you think that level of organization is essential?
Well, it definitely illustrates the power of a systematic approach.
Okay.
But it's not the only way.
Yeah.
The book acknowledges that,
Yeah.
juggling a job search while working full-time is tough.
Oh my gosh, tell me about it.
It's like another job.
So how do you even find the time and energy?
Yeah.
I feel like I would be so exhausted
Right.
before I even sent out an application.
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
So one strategy the guide suggests is to carve out specific time slots in your week for job searching activities,
Oh.
just like you'd schedule any other important meeting in your day.
So treat it like a project, like with deadlines and everything.
Exactly.
I like that.
You got it. And even think about using technology to your advantage.
How do you mean?
You can set reminders on your phone
Oh, yeah?
for upcoming application deadlines.
Okay.
Just those little things can help you stay on track.
Right, so you're not feeling overwhelmed by the whole process.
Exactly.
I've always been so curious about informational interviews.
Yeah.
They seem like such a good way to explore.
Yeah.
But I honestly wouldn't even know where to begin.
Right. A lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
The great thing is that this guide reframes what informational interviews are all about.
Okay.
It's not about begging for a job.
Right.
It's about asking really insightful questions.
I like that.
And absorbing knowledge.
Like a journalist.
Yes, exactly.
Think like a journalist. I love it.
Uh-huh.
So does the book give you specific questions that you can use
But does.
to guide those conversations?
It has this framework called the 5 PIE questions,
Okay.
which focus on the position, the industry, and the environment.
Gotcha.
And those help you really understand if a role is actually a good fit.
Oh, that's so smart.
Yeah,
So then you're getting way more value out of those conversations.
exactly.
But even with all this insider knowledge,
Yeah.
there's still the big hurdle of writing a resume
Uh-huh.
that doesn't just blend in with all the rest.
Yeah.
So how do you make it stand out?
This guide actually goes beyond just listing your accomplishments.
Okay.
It really dives into the psychology behind resumes,
Yeah.
like how to tailor your resume to each specific job,
Right.
and how to write a really strong, compelling summary that's going to hook the hiring manager in from the very first sentence.
Yeah, I've heard that using action verbs can really make your achievements pop.
Absolutely.
Does the book talk about that?
It does.
Okay.
It stresses using strong verbs and gives you tons of examples of how to replace those tired old cliches.
Right, the ones that everybody uses.
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
your resume is like your first impression.
Yes.
It needs to be engaging.
It needs to be memorable.
I like to think of it as my personal marketing brochure.
Exactly.
But then there's the interview,
Yeah,
which is a whole other thing.
that's right.
Because even with a killer resume, The interview can make or break you.
Oh yeah, nerves are totally natural.
Oh, yeah.
But the guide reminds us that preparation is key. It breaks down common interview questions and even tackles that dreaded, "tell me about your greatest weakness" question.
Oh, gosh, I hate that question.
It throws people off.
Every time.
Yeah.
So what strategies does it suggest for dealing with those tricky questions?
Instead of viewing it as a weakness,
Yeah.
they encourage you to reframe it as a challenge
Okay.
that you're actively working to overcome.
So it's like turning it into a positive.
Exactly. It shows self-awareness
Right.
and a growth mindset.
I like that, which I'm sure is really attractive to employers.
Yeah.
It's not just about showcasing your skills.
Yeah.
It's about demonstrating how you approach challenges.
Exactly.
But landing the perfect job is about more than just skills, right?
You're hitting on something really important.
Okay.
This guide emphasizes the importance of company culture. Because finding a company whose values actually align with your own
Right.
is so important for long-term job satisfaction.
It's almost like dating, right? You can have all the right qualifications on paper,
Yeah.
but if the values don't match, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
And this guide gives you all these practical tips on how to research company culture.
Yeah.
Did you know there's this tool called the Gender Bias Decoder that analyzes job descriptions
Okay.
for language that might unintentionally discourage certain genders from applying?
Oh, wow.
I know, isn't that interesting?
That's fascinating.
So you're saying even the language that a company uses in their job posting
Yeah.
can be a clue about their culture?
It can.
Oh, I'm definitely checking that tool out.
Yeah. It's incredible what we can learn
Right.
by paying attention to those subtle cues.
Okay, so you've nailed the interview. The company culture seems like a good fit. And then comes the offer.
Yes.
But before we celebrate,
Hold on.
this is where the negotiation comes in.
That's right.
And the guide emphasizes that this stage is so crucial, especially for women and BIPOC individuals who statistically face more challenges
Absolutely.
when it comes to salary negotiation.
That's so true.
So the book really dives deep into how to approach these salary discussions with confidence
Right.
and grace. And it even provides 15 specific rules for negotiation,
Wow.
which I think is so helpful
It is.
for anyone who might feel intimidated by this whole process.
Absolutely.
So it's a step-by-step guide to advocating for your worth.
It is.
And it also tackles head-on the reality of the racial wage gap.
It does.
It provides data and action steps to combat implicit bias,
Right.
which is so important
It is.
because knowledge is power.
Yes.
And this guide really equips people with the knowledge they need
yeah.
to fight for fair compensation.
You got it.
But the book doesn't stop there. It even addresses those what-if scenarios.
Yeah.
Like what happens if you get a job offer, but you're still interviewing at other places?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good problem to have.
Talk about a tough decision.
But it would be so stressful.
It would.
So does the book offer any strategies for juggling multiple offers?
It outlines things like a delayed start strategy
Okay.
and the pros and cons of accepting a job while still keeping your options open.
Okay, so you're not closing any doors.
Exactly.
I love how this guide really anticipates those tricky situations
Yeah.
and gives you clear guidance. It's like having a career coach in your back pocket.
It really is.
But the journey doesn't end there. It's all about then making a smooth transition into that new role.
You're telling me.
So whether you're quitting your current job or starting fresh,
Yeah.
there are so many things to figure out.
There are?
Does the guide touch on that at all?
Absolutely. It covers things like quitting gracefully without burning bridges,
So important.
acing that exit interview, and it even gives you 5 key questions to ask
Ooh.
when you're starting a new role.
Okay, I love that. I'm always so nervous those first few weeks on a new job.
I get it.
So what are some of the questions that they recommend?
Well, they really focus on making sure that you're getting the support that you need to thrive.
Okay.
So things like clarifying expectations,
Got
understanding communication styles,
it.
and even identifying those key stakeholders in the company.
Right, the people that you need to connect with.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's like a roadmap for navigating those early days and setting yourself up for success.
Exactly. And speaking of setting yourself up for success, you know, it's so easy to just get swept up in the applications and the interviews and the negotiations that we forget to take a step back and think about the bigger picture.
Right.
Like, why are we even doing all of this?
Right, it's easy to lose sight of the why.
Exactly.
When you're just focused on landing a job, any job.
And that's where this guide's emphasis on values comes in. They encourage you to define what matters most to you in a job and in a company culture.
So it's not just about getting a job.
Right.
It's about finding a job that actually aligns with your values.
Exactly. It's about finding a role that gives you a sense of purpose.
Do you think that's the key to long-term career satisfaction?
Absolutely. When your work aligns with your values, it's no longer just a job, it becomes a calling.
I like that.
But even while you're searching for that perfect fit, there's another piece of the puzzle.
What's that?
Professional development.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's easy to put that on hold.
Right.
When you're busy applying for jobs and going on interviews.
Totally. But I bet the guide recommends staying active.
Exactly. Even during your job search.
Okay.
You can be taking steps to enhance your skills.
Right.
And your knowledge.
So things like taking an online course or going to an industry event.
Absolutely.
Maybe just reading articles.
Even that.
Can all give you an edge.
It shows employers that you're committed to continuous learning and growth.
And that you're passionate about your field.
Exactly.
Speaking of things that can give you an edge, let's talk about following up after an interview.
Ooh.
I always struggle with that. Like, how much is too much?
Right. It's a fine line between being persistent and coming across as, like, desperate.
Exactly.
The guide gives you this framework for following up.
Okay.
Send a thank you note within 24 hours.
Okay.
Reiterate your interest in the position. And then wait.
Wait, that's it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd be so tempted to send like 1 million emails.
I know.
Just checking in.
The guide basically says if you haven't heard back within the agreed upon time frame, a single follow-up email or phone call is okay.
So just one.
Yeah.
Keep it brief, keep it professional.
Exactly.
And then trust the process.
Trust the process.
Okay, so you know what I really dread?
What's that?
The salary question.
Oh, yeah.
What are your salary expectations?
Oh, it's a tough word.
Ugh. Every time I freeze up.
The guide gives you strategies for researching salary ranges.
Okay.
So you can walk into those conversations feeling confident.
Feeling prepared.
And prepared.
Because you know what you're worth.
Exactly.
You can advocate for yourself.
And it even suggests providing a salary range rather than a specific number.
Ooh, that's a good tip.
Gives you some wiggle room.
I like that.
And don't forget, salary is just one part of it.
Right.
Consider the whole compensation package.
Like benefits and vacation time.
All of it.
Professional development opportunity.
Can add up.
Yeah, it's easy to get fixated on that one number. But it's all about the bigger picture.
The bigger picture.
Okay, so let's say you've gone through all that.
Yeah.
You've navigated the salary talk. You have the offer in hand.
Ooh.
Are we popping champagne yet?
Not so fast.
Okay.
It's tempting to just say yes right away.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you've been looking for a while.
I know, but the guide really emphasizes taking the time to evaluate the offer before you accept.
Does it give you specific things to look for?
It does. Look closely at the job title.
Okay.
The responsibilities. The salary. The benefits.
All right.
The start date.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to negotiate.
So even after they've extended the offer,
yes,
there's still room to advocate for yourself.
Absolutely. And the guide gives you tips on how to approach those conversations professionally and respectfully.
So you're not burning any bridges.
Exactly. It's about finding a win-win.
And then once you do accept,
then you celebrate.
Time to celebrate.
Yes.
But also time to get ready for the next chapter.
That's right.
Because starting a new job, even if it's your dream job, can be really daunting.
It can.
So does the guide have any advice?
It does.
For navigating those first few weeks?
It gives you advice on how to make those first few weeks count.
Okay.
Be proactive. Ask questions.
Yeah.
Seek opportunities to contribute.
So it's all about making a good first impression.
Exactly.
But it also acknowledges that starting a new job can be overwhelming.
It can be a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So set realistic expectations.
Right.
Give yourself time to adjust.
Don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Exactly.
To be perfect right out of the gate.
And celebrate those small wins along the way.
Ooh, I like that.
Now, we've been talking about the practical steps.
Yeah.
But this guide doesn't shy away from the emotional side of job searching.
Because, let's be real, it can be brutal.
It is.
Rejections.
Yeah.
Setbacks.
The ups and downs.
It's easy to get discouraged.
It is.
So how do you stay positive?
The authors emphasize that you're not alone in this.
Okay.
And they give you strategies for staying motivated.
Like what?
Focus on your goals. Celebrate your progress.
Okay.
And lean on your support network.
So it's about building resilience.
Exactly. And remembering that self-care is so important during this process.
It's so easy to forget about that when you're in job search mode.
Yeah.
But you're right. You have to take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself.
Things like getting enough sleep,
Yeah.
exercise, spending time, doing things you enjoy.
All of that can help you stay balanced.
I like that.
And energized.
Now let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
The guide mentions personal branding.
Yes.
Especially in today's digital world.
It's no longer just about your resume.
So your online presence is super important.
It is.
That's often the first impression you make.
Absolutely.
On a potential employer.
That's right.
So what tips does the guide give for building a strong personal brand?
It covers optimizing your LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
Creating a professional website or portfolio. And even using social media strategically.
Oh, I've always wondered about that.
It can be intimidating.
It can.
But it's not about being everywhere.
Right.
It's about being strategic.
Okay.
Choose the platforms where your target audience hangs out and share valuable content.
Got it. So it's about quality over quantity.
Exactly.
But of course, networking is still king.
Always.
You can't beat that personal connection.
Right.
And we've been talking a lot about the individual's role in the job search. But I'm curious about the other side of the coin.
Okay.
The guide mentions DEI.
Yes.
But it doesn't really delve into the company's responsibility.
That's a good point. It's not enough for companies to just talk about DEI.
Right.
And they need to take action.
So what can companies do to create a more inclusive and equitable work environment?
Well, I think it starts with leadership.
Okay.
They need to make it clear that DEI is a priority.
So walk the walk.
Walk's a walk.
Not just talk the talk.
Exactly.
And it's about creating a culture of open communication.
Yes, where everyone feels comfortable speaking up.
Right, because if people don't feel safe, how can anything change?
Exactly.
So companies can also implement policies and practices that promote equity and inclusion. Like what kind of things?
Things like blind recruitment processes, diverse hiring panels, mentorship programs, flexible work arrangements.
Those are all great ideas. So it sounds like creating a truly inclusive workplace requires a multifaceted approach.
It does. And it's a journey, not a destination.
So it's about continuous learning and growth.
Always.
And about holding ourselves and each other accountable for creating a more just and equitable world.
Well said.
Both within our workplaces and beyond.
Absolutely.
Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, there's one more topic I want to touch on.
What's that?
Something that's really relevant in today's world.
Okay.
Let's talk about remote work.
Remote work. Here we go. Now let's write the third and final part of this episode in a new response.
It feels like that's on everyone's mind these days.
It is.
Either working remotely or going hybrid.
Yeah.
Or at least thinking about it.
Everyone's talking about it.
So does this guide address the whole remote work thing?
It does. It has a whole section on navigating this new world of work.
Okay, I like that.
And it's not just about finding those remote jobs.
Right.
It's about, how do you actually succeed in that environment?
Oh, so once you get the job.
Once you get the job.
Okay, so let's start with the job search itself. I imagine interviewing remotely is a whole different beast.
It is.
So does the guide have any tips for nailing the virtual interview?
You bet. It covers everything from setting up your home office to make sure you have a professional background.
Right, you don't want anything embarrassing behind you?
Exactly.
I've seen some pretty funny things on Zoom calls.
To making sure your technology works.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want any awkward frozen screens.
Right, or echoing microphones.
That's the worst.
Ugh, I've been there. It's so distracting.
It's not a good look.
It really throws you off your game.
It does.
So you're saying basically treat it the same way you would an in-person interview?
In a lot of ways, yes.
But there are some unique things to consider.
Like what?
Well, for example, they talk about maintaining a professional presence on camera.
Okay.
So things like posture.
Right. You're not just slouching on your couch.
Exactly.
I'm guilty of that. Eye contact. How do you even do that with a camera?
Well, you want to look at the camera lens, not at the screen.
Right, because that's what you're naturally drawn to.
And minimizing distractions.
Yeah, I need to put my phone away.
It's like putting your best virtual foot forward.
I like that. Your best virtual foot forward.
It's a new skill.
It is. It's almost like learning a new language. Okay, so let's say you do nail that virtual interview.
Okay.
You land the remote job.
You got the job.
How do you then set yourself up for success in that remote environment?
The guide emphasizes proactive communication.
Okay.
When you're not in the office,
Yeah.
you have to be more intentional about keeping your manager informed.
Okay.
Keeping your colleagues in the loop. So over-communication is a good thing in a remote setting.
It can be, especially when you're first starting out, building those relationships.
So you're building that trust remotely.
Exactly. And you also want to be tech savvy.
Right. You have to know how to use all the tools.
Master those online collaboration tools.
Zoom, Slack, all that stuff.
All of that.
You've got to be a pro.
And you need to find ways
to
connect with your colleagues.
Right. Even though you're miles apart.
Create a virtual water cooler.
Oh, I like that. It's like you have to be more deliberate about it.
You do.
When you're not physically in the office.
You have to be more intentional.
But the guide also talks about the challenges of remote work, right?
It does.
Because it's not all rainbows and sunshine.
Not always.
What are some of the pitfalls that it mentions?
One of the biggest ones is boundaries.
Oh, yeah. Work-life balance.
When your office is in your home, it can be hard to switch off.
I can see that. I'd be tempted to just work all the time.
Right. So you have to be really intentional
about creating that separation.
So you're not burning yourself out.
You need time to recharge.
That's such a good point.
And that leads into the importance of self-care.
Right. Taking care of yourself mentally and physically.
Exactly.
Especially when you're working remotely.
It's crucial.
Wow, we've really covered a lot today.
We have.
From networking and resumes to DEI and remote work.
It's been quite a journey.
This guide seems to have it all.
It really is comprehensive.
What I appreciate most is that it's so practical.
Yeah, and it gives you actionable advice.
Right, you can actually use this stuff.
You can put it into practice.
It's like having a career coach in your back pocket.
I love that analogy.
So before we wrap up, anything else that stood out to you from this deep dive?
You know, what really resonated with me was the emphasis on mindset.
That's interesting.
It's not just about the steps you take.
Right.
It's about your attitude.
Okay.
Your resilience.
So how do you approach the whole process?
Because job searching can be so emotionally draining.
It can be a roller coaster.
It really can.
But having the right mindset can make all the difference.
It's about staying positive even when things get tough.
It is. And remembering that rejection isn't a reflection of your worth.
That's so important.
It's just part of the process.
Well said. Well, I think it's time for us to wrap up our deep dive into the Harvard Business Review Guide to Your Job Search 2024.
It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. And to all our listeners out there, we hope you found this conversation helpful.
Informative.
And maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Inspiring.
Remember, the job search is a journey.
Not a sprint.
So embrace the process.
Stay true to yourself.
And never give up on your dreams.
You got this.
Good luck out there, everyone.
Best of luck.